So, Pops, according to our record here, it shows that about 1955 you joined the Walk Hill Fire Engine Company in Middletown, New York. Tell us about your experiences with the fire company.
Well, first of all, I really joined the company because they had a softball team and I could play ball. But as far as firefighting, I did all the necessary things. I went to the fires that I was supposed to go to and so forth and so on. One time I was going to run for the office of third lieutenant there to go in prospect of going for, the captain of the company. But one of my best friends, Andy and Gracia, wanted to run, and so I stepped aside and I was elected to the position of secretary, which I served for a few years. And then one of our members, our former chief, Johnny Walker, passed away, and he was a member of the board of trustees, and I was appointed to fill his vacancy on the board, and ended up spending well over 30 years on that board. And while I was on the board of trustees, I served on the finance committee, which controlled what we did with the money that we received from the state. And I was also served as president. And when I was serving as president, our treasurer passed away, and nobody else in the group had any bookkeeping experience. So for a year I was president and treasurer. I took over something like 19 mortgages that we had out. I took charge of collecting and keeping all the records on those.
What do you mean 19 mortgages? Who had the mortgages in?
To explain that, the state of New York took 2% of all the insurance premiums for fire insurance in the state that were written out of state, and then they collected it and they distributed to volunteer fire departments all over the state. And each year, twice a year, we would get a check from them, which we in turn would invest and turn whatever portions we determined over to each fire company. So anyway.
But who got the mortgages? Was it a mortgage on the firehouse?
No, the mortgages were set up to aid volunteer firemen in purchasing their homes. In other words, at that, when the terms were set up for that, there was a limit of $20,000 you could have a mortgage. But that was back when you could buy a house for $1,000 or so.
Okay.
So
anyway, rather than going to a bank for the mortgage, the volunteer fire firemen could you give them just to Walk Hill volunteers, or you could give them to other?
Any volunteer firemen in the city, because we're represented on the board by all 7 companies, and this was a regulation set up by the state when they started collecting this money to help the volunteer firemen. But I lost my train of thought now. But as I said, we had, I think it was 19 mortgages. It was all held by, mortgages on people that I knew. I collected their checks every month and made the deposits in the bank, kept the records, and when it was paid off, I got the papers to show the stuff. But anyway, it was like being a banker. And I served on that until I resigned from the board because of other commitments. I don't remember the exact year, but I think it's something like 33 years, or 33 years I was treasurer. Anyway,
wow.
It was actually from about 1962 to in the late 90s. I don't remember the exact year.
Are you still an official member of the Walk Hill Fire Company?
I'm still an official member of the Wallkill Engine Company. This coming July or August, it will be 54 years.
Wow.
And when I joined the company, I never expected to get 50 years in because I was 30-something when I joined.
Wow. I remember as a kid watching you parade. What do you remember about firemen's parades?
Well, of course, in the city of Middletown, we always had our inspection parade, which was usually the second Saturday in September. And of course, as being a member of our company, we were required to attend, so we always marched and hired a band to escort us, and it was a typical fireman's parade. And the last couple of parades I attended, I got the privilege of riding in a car for convertible instead of parading.
Now, you just used the word typical fireman's parade, but today, at least the few firemen's parades I have gone to, now I'm not in a big city, but they seem so tiny compared to what I remember as a kid. So was it just that I was small, or about how many companies, how many bands, how many people would participate in one of those parades?
Well, we had 7 companies in the city of Middletown, and each one was allowed to invite 3 guests. So, and they did a pretty good sized parade, something like 20 companies plus their bands and other things, color guards and all of that. And we had, each year they changed a different route through the city. Basically, we always ended up on North Street, past the Thrall Park where the Revere and Sand was. And at the end, you were awarded, the companies were awarded prizes for the best dressed, the neatest marching unit, the best looking, most in line, ones that came the furthest, and so forth. The usual firemen's parades, and of course afterwards there was always the parties, and for many years the Wallkills always held our party at our truck house, and it seemed that we were always the last ones to run out of refreshments. And so when all the others had closed up for the night, a few stragglers from each company always ended up at our truck house. So.
And I remember middle of the summer and some very heavy, dark-looking uniforms. What were your uniforms like?
Oh, they were real warm, heavy. I guess you'd call it serge or something like that. But I'd forgotten something now that is quite important, and I think it was 65. Yeah, I think it was 1965 or something. Anyway, we had our 75th anniversary celebration, and I and Dominic Nice were co-chairman of that. We raised money by raffling off a car in all kinds of ways, and we made quite a bit of money and to cover the expenses of the anniversary celebration. We had money left over to buy some things that the company sorely needed. That was quite an experience working at that.
And I also remember something about firemen and Christmas trees, but I didn't remember whether that was your fire company or somebody else's.
Well, I think that was the whole fire department. They would provide the spray for keeping the trees from burning as a service to anybody that bought Christmas. And of course, I think what you're thinking about is Eddie's company, the Monhagens. They used to sell Christmas trees.
That's what I was thinking about. I remember we used to go to some place that a fire company had something to do with us buying our Christmas trees.
Anyway, Eddie was a truck driver, he could drive a truck, and his friend Mark Cullen knew where to get the trees, so they would have a Saturday where they'd go out and cut trees and bring them back to sell them wherever they were. I sent a firehouse somewhere, usually across the street there.
Okay. Anything else about the fire company?
No, not really. Too many details of.
But I know over the years you made many good friends through the fire company.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Now, wasn't one of the bowling leagues through the fire company too?
Oh, that's right. Well, I also, outside of joining the company to play softball, first chance I got when the bowling season came around, I joined a bowling team, and at one time we had 3 teams bowling, and then in the Farmers League we bowled every Tuesday night during the bowling season, and as a result of that, we started going to the New York State Volunteer Firearms Bowling Association tournaments, which were held all over the state. So Bernie Warehan and a few others, Henry Cutler, and I can't think, someday we were the basis for it, but anyway, some years there was some others went. But we went to the Buffalo area 2 or 3 times, went to Syracuse, Utica, Glens Falls, out on the island someplace, and we always had a good time at these bowling tournaments.
So your love of bowling and baseball got you into over 50 years of service to a fire company.
Yeah, mostly in the social activities. I wasn't a great firefighter. I did make the scene a couple times, and one time that I did, I stepped off the truck onto a hose and turned my ankle, and I was laid up for a few weeks.
Well, Middletown regular fire department was paid, wasn't it?
The drivers were paid. We had paid drivers who stayed in the house 24 hours a day, and when the alarm rang, all the drivers did was drive the truck and operate it. They didn't participate in fighting the fire itself, with the hose and things. That was all done by the volunteers.
Okay.
Yeah. That takes care of the fire department.